I fully understand it. What we are going to do is to raise questions and to try to give some answers. Some of them make more sense, some of them less. But nevertheless, Chazal themselves were very confused. You have to understand, especially the people who came the first time to this year. David HaMelech, until now, behaved on the highest standards of morality for a king, for a human being. And we followed in admiration his ascent from one level to another that no one before enjoyed in the Tanakh such admiration from the person who tells the stories of the Tanakh. And from nowhere, we come to the lowest point, not of a king, not of David HaMelech, of any human being, of any leader. What is happening here? And we started to talk about it last time. The soldiers of David, where are they? In the battlefield. It's the first time that David HaMelech stayed in Yerushalayim. He always led his soldiers. He was a general, he was a king, he was the person that every soldier looked up to. Not in this parak. In this parak, David HaMelech stayed behind. Which already tells us that the parak, the chapter, starts bad. Because it's very uncharacteristic to David, number one. Number two, ויהי לעת הערב, it's evening time, because the king is not too busy, so he had a good shlof. He does not have to wake up at noontime. Yeah, we saw it last time. לעת ערב. David wakes up after a good Schlafstunde, ויתהלך על גג בית המלך, and he walks on the roof. I'm sure that many of you were in the old city of Yerushalayim, which I guess did not change much over the last 3,000 years. If you stand in some of the restaurants up there, you can see almost every building and every backyard in Yerushalayim. So David HaMelech is walking on one of the highest points of Ir David, maybe it's Har Zion of today, and lo and behold, וירא אישה רוחצת מעל הגג. והאישה טובת מראה מאוד. First of all, we have to see, that's interesting, because let's analyze what happened here. It was not that David HaMelech saw a woman before, and then the king, he decided to take her. It was an accident. It means a lot. That it was not something that was planned in advance. It all happened by an accident. It might be that David HaMelech would shluf a little bit more, and nothing will happen. Everything in David's life will be fantastic.
If he would have gone to war, it wouldn't have happened either.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
She would have been happy when it happened either.
But see the next pasuk. It's very important comment. See the next pasuk. Let's assume that David HaMelech was really a bad person, a king that, it happened to many other kings, uses their power in order to take women to himself. And by the way, you know, this is an old thing.
Thank you.
Where do we find the first time that people used their power in order to kidnap women from their husbands? By Abraham and Sarah, it even before. In Parashat Bereshit. The end of Parashat Bereshit is telling us about Bnei Elohim, the children of the Elohim. Elohim in the Tanakh is not always God. Elohim means the powerful. People with power used many times to exercise their power by taking the wife or the women that they wanted to themselves. Everyone who read a little bit about the times of Stalin and Beria and all these, some of them were Jews unfortunately, but everyone who read, this was prominent thing. That the Russians in power, many times they took women who were wives and had children because they wanted them. And this was one way to exercise power, obviously in a way that the Torah condemns and the Torah hates, but it's an old story. It's already in Parashat Bereshit. As a precursor to the Mabul story, there is this story about Bnei Elohim who come and kidnap these poor women. But please read carefully Pasuk Gimel and tell me if this was the case. There is something important in rereading. I feel like a reunion tonight. Shalom Aleichem, welcome. It's really nice to have you. You bring the ריח of Eretz Israel. It's really important. Yeah, תודה רבה. Read for yourself Pasuk Gimel and tell me if it really supports the idea that David was exercising his power.
Not yet.
Well, what does it mean, he darash? He made an investigation. A person who is under his Yetzer Hara don't do investigations. He takes her. He kidnapped her. He's a king, after all. And as we said, all his soldiers are away. If he liked her so much, he could take her. No investigation. He doesn't care who she is, because basically he's a king. She belongs to him. And I'll tell you one more thing. Sometimes a person is engulfed with this Yetzer Hara. But give him half an hour to think about what is going to happen. You know, sometimes we just need to count from 10 to 0, and many stupid things that we try to do, we think, wait a second. It's really stupid. Just count up to 10. Here, he had minutes and maybe hours to reconsider the whole thing. וישלח דוד וידרוש לאישה ויאמר הלא זאת בת שבע בת אליעם אשת אוריה החיתי. So first of all, on one end we see that they informed him that she was Eshet Ish. Very bad. But at the same time we see that it was not just like a burst of lust that David HaMelech must take care, because there was enough time to control it. And David HaMelech, as we see until now, was not a simple person. He was a person who overcome his desire many times before, and we can assume that this time he could maybe, especially if some time passed between he saw her and he brought her to his house, that he could reconsider the whole story.
It's not quite, because
But he didn't.
he normally when you say he asks about a woman, he doesn't already know that the woman is married. He knows this woman is married.
I agree. Now, I want
And
to
he
say...
doesn't know her name either.
He does, doesn't he?
I want to say something.
Oh, right,
This
yes.
is very, very important. Listen to this. I'm walking here really like these people who are walking on a rope and has to cross a canyon. And it's not easy, because you're right. You see, at the end of the Perek, it said that Hashem hated what David did. I'm not going to be his lawyer, on one hand. At the same time, we are learning the chapter. We cannot ignore clues and ideas that are there. So learning here is going to be a very tricky thing, because in one hand we already know the story. This story ended up in a terrible way. From this moment, everything is going downhill, and we cannot deny it. But we will have to read it in two ways, two folds. There is no other way because otherwise we can close the Tanakh and everything that we learn about David is just, forget about it. This person was just a terrible person, which we know he wasn't. So we will try to do this tricky job to look upon David on one hand, what really happened, and at the same time, the Tanakh is telling us something different. And I want to say something about this, that we have to appreciate the Tanakh in a completely new way. Let me tell you something. First expectation is that the Tanakh will bury a story like this. This is a scandal. This is something that does not shed positive light on David HaMelech. And I think that most writers of history will say, you know what, let's discuss the nice parts about our kings. Not the Tanakh. The Tanakh is honest with us. This is very, very important. Does not try to cover up. But at the same time, when the Tanakh who decided to tell us this story about David HaMelech, we have to read it with full honesty. What he tells us and how he tells us that. And that's what we will try to do. So we are not going to give any reductions to David HaMelech, but at the same time we are going to be careful when we read the words of this chapter. וישלח דוד מלאכים. David sent שליחים. ויקחיה ותבוא אליו. Now what is strange with ויקחיה ותבוא אליו? What is the problem here?
You don't need both.
When you take someone, when you force someone to come, she doesn't come. We have here a story about David who forced her to come, but what about her? We don't talk about her. What about her? She's also maybe a little bit responsible to what happened. And if you are in Yerushalayim, I do believe that when you are taking a shower or a bath, you're going to do it in a place that most likely no one is going to see you. So we have already a story that we have to read it from her point of view. We read it, the history, his story, but my suggestion is to read her story too. Because the Tanakh is telling us that this story has more than one side. והיא מתקדשת מטומאתה. She just came from the mikveh. ותשוב אל ביתה. And she goes back to her house. And then apparently when David HaMelech saw her, he saw her maybe preparing for the mikveh or something like this. Everyone who was in Yerushalayim, you know that the Ira Atika has so many mikvahot for Beit HaMikdash, but people lived in Old Jerusalem, and she apparently prepared herself to the mikveh. Why is it important? Why is that important? That it was just after she came from the mikveh.
Because she knows who the father is. If she went to the mikveh...
So number one, it cannot be her husband before, but second one, what is the second?
In case she has a child.
Exactly.
In case she has a child, at least.
The chance that she is going to have a child is much higher. David is not careful and she is not careful. What she should tell him, listen, it's very dangerous. This business is very dangerous. And he also should think, well, if something will go wrong here, and it happened, everyone will recognize it. And nevertheless, the Tanakh is telling us that no one of them took precaution to avoid it. Which already tell us that maybe in their mind, it wasn't that terrible. Now, what I'm saying now is a certain way how Chazal reads a story. Chazal said what the eye meet might be a little bit more complicated than you think. And the Tanakh itself leaves us all kinds of clues to understand that it was more complex than we might think at the first time. For example, this one. והיא מתקדשת מטומאתה ותשוב אל ביתה, and she goes back to her house.
Isn't this in the wrong order?
I'm sorry?
isn't there, should be, she went to the mikveh first, then she,
And then it says
Yeah,
she
so
was
it was at this
purified.
time that she was mitkadeshet mitumata, right? So it was a time where she had this relation with David, which means the next pasuk is almost obvious. Vatara isha, and she got pregnant. She conceived. ותשלח ותגד לדוד ותאמר הרה אנוכי. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. We know that it might take some time until she knew it. We are talking about few days. Sometimes it's even more. By the way, it's interesting to realize that the only two words that she says in the entire parak is Hara Anochi. I'm pregnant. We don't see any discussion between David and her before or after, but these two words shake the kingdom. Hara Anochi. Let's stop the story here. I don't want to say, try to get into the shoes of David HaMelech. But what are the options that a king like David had? Let's take, 30 seconds. David, I try to imagine, someone knocking on his door, and by the way, it was not her. It all happened by shlichim. We are going to see, as I mentioned the last year, that this is going to change the picture in many ways. The fact that they communicated through shlichim. What do you think were the options of David at this point?
You mean after she told him that she's...
I'm sorry?
After she told him...
Yeah. He hear this story, he hoped that, it was just like a stutz, nothing happened, and it was one time. And then he heard that actually the story just began. She's pregnant. I don't know if they did abortion at this time. But there were a few ways to go. What do you think? It's a real scandal here. No? מה אתם אומרים? To kill her. Hey, I mean, it was to kill her. Remember who did it, by the way? Remember who did something like this, who killed
Yehuda.
or almost killed the lady just because he thought that she's had an affair
Yehuda.
outside of the family? Yehuda. Remember the story with Yehuda? We are going to go back to this story a little bit later. Number one. And David was not afraid. After all, he decided to kill her husband. Right? So this was an option. Another option, maybe to deny everything. You hire a PR agency, and they say, this lady is meshugat. She had a story, did you ever heard, about the lady who taking a bath on the roofs of Yerushalayim? She's completely mapitom, David HaMelech.
He couldn't do it because he had the shlichim, the messengers. So everybody knows that.
Kill the messengers too.
Could have been someone else's baby. Could have been someone else's baby. So,
If you really want to understand this parak, we have to start to appreciate what David did here. He took responsibility right away. He took responsibility. That's a great thing for a king, like David HaMelech.
He took responsibility and he's going to kill her husband. I like the code of ethics.
No, but he did it in a fair way.
In a society,
Because
we have to-
he could have lived after
He
that.
didn't
I
take
mean,
responsibility,
if
because
Hashem
first he
wanted him
tries
to live, he could have
to get
lived.
her husband to sleep with her, and then he could deny it.
You're right. We are going to discuss this. But I want to say one thing. In a society that women basically were nothing, David had an easy way to get out of the story. To dump the poor woman, and that's it. He doesn't do it. At least 2 words towards her, he was absolutely fair. And especially when you read today the newspapers, you have to appreciate at least this part. Well, what about the other part? We are going to go from one pasuk to another. But I think it is important. It is important to remember that. Vayishlach David el Yoav. Yoav, and we explained the last shiur that Yoav is always the invert image of David. In the beginning of Shmuel Bet, David is the hero. Yoav is the one who causing troubles. In this story, it's exactly the opposite. Yoav is the hero. David is the person that portrayed in a very bad light. So he sent to Yoav, Shlach li et Uriah Achiti. Vayishlach Yoav et Uriah el David. Okay, got a command from the king. He has to do it. Vayavo Uriah elav. Uriah comes to David. Vayishal David לשלום Yoav, I'm sorry, ולשלום העם ולשלום המלחמה. Small talk. How is Yoav? How is everyone doing? Our positions are good, everything is okay. ויאמר דוד לאוריה, רד לביתך ורחץ רגליך. Go to your house and prepare yourself. He doesn't say the next words, but what does that mean? What does he tell him? Be with your wife. What do you think is going on in the head of Uriah when he hears that? Very unusual. You bring a person from the war, from Rabat Ammon, and you tell him, I want you to be with your wife.
Doesn't say that.
What would you think? At least that it's strange, isn't it? Very strange. It might be, and this is important to remember, you know, Uriah and Bathsheba have no kids. They have no children. The first child was from David. They are maybe young couple. And Uriah is one of the greatest generals of David. He's one of the generals of David, Uriah Hitti. Where was it all this time? I'm telling you that I suspect that he saw his wife very few times. A person is in Rabat Ammon, and I can tell you about our heroes. You know, the people who are going to Tzva Keva in Israel. You know, Israel is a small country and you can take a car from here to there, but you know, one of the big issues that wives of officers in Tzahal, they don't see their husbands. And it's something very, very important, especially in the first year, in the second year, and we know that the Torah said that actually a person who married a wife is exempt from the army for 1 year. How can you establish relationship if you are in the army and your wife is behind? That's a time that you need to have the love and to build the family. This is the most important time. And therefore the Torah said, stay at home. And if you remember Perek Tet and Perek Yud, this is a time of war. David is fighting against Moab and against Ammon and against Aram and against the coalition of other nations that came from the north. This was a war time. And we can imagine that Uriah was not at home all this time. Was not at home all this time. So maybe he think, well, David HaMelech cares about my wife, about my family. Yes, I'm one of the generals, but he wants me to be at home too. But you know what? I think that at this point, Uriah started to understand that something is going on. And see his reaction. So Uriah is going outside the house of the king and he gives him some gifts. ויתן אחריו מסת ותצא אחריו מסת המלך. וישכב אוריה פתח בית המלך. את כל עבדי אדוניו ולא ירד אל ביתו. His house is blocked away. His wife is there. We know that it was very close because David could see her from his roof. And apparently he liked what he see because though it was quite close. And he doesn't go home. He doesn't go to say Shalom Aleichem to his wife. Where he stayed the night? With all the servants of David. פתח בית המלך. ולא ירד אל ביתו. The way I read it, he started to get the picture. Something happened. David called him, wanted him to be with his wife in the middle of the war. He doesn't like it. And he is not cooperating with David. He stayed to sleep, to spend the night, not in his house, but in the house of Avdei David, in front of the house of David. What does he try to get here? Okay, let's now think through the mind of Uriah. Why he's doing that? Why he's not going home? He's upset with his wife?
He suspects something's going on. He doesn't know exactly what, so if something's going on and the king wants him to, and he wants him to go to his house, he doesn't know what's going on yet, but he figures he's playing into something. This way, at least he's playing it safe till
So
he
he's
figures
like-
it out. He's not sure, so it's
like
playing
he's
safe
getting
that way a
through.
little bit.
Could be that he
Getting-
knew, because the scandal was out, everybody knew by then.
So number one, the Radak said the scandal was out. They conducted themselves so carelessly. They sent messengers back and forth. What do you expect messengers? Not that one of them will not leak the news out. That David called her, she came to his house, she went, then she sent another few messengers to David to tell him, Hara Anochi, so that she had to tell them that, tell the boss that I'm pregnant. So too many people knew about it, and apparently one of them told Uriah, watch out, something is going on. But clearly we can see something more than that. Let's think about the people of Yerushalayim. And they see Uriah not going to his house, which is few meters away, and stay with David HaMelech, refusing the request of David. What do they think? They see Uriah as someone who's challenging the king. And this is very, very important. Uriah is challenging the king here. He understands that the king got into a real trouble, and he's not going to help him to get off the hook. ויאמר דוד, ויגידו לדוד לאמור, לא ירד אוריה אל ביתו. ויאמר דוד אל אוריה, he called him back, הלא מדרך אתה בא, מדוע לא ירדת אל ביתך? Well, what's going on here? What's going on between you and your wife? You didn't see her for such a long time, you are at home and you are not going home? Listen to Uriah. It's really interesting. ויאמר אוריה אל דוד, you want me to go home? What happened to you? הארון, the ark, וישראל, ויהודה, the entire nation, יושבים בסוכות, they are in the tents for this booth, ואדוני יואב, and my general יואב, ועבדי אדוני על פני השדה, they don't have home, they don't have their families, they are there ambushing the enemy, ואני אבוא אל ביתי לאכול ולשתות, ולשכב עם אשתי. What do you think I am? I'm a soldier. My place now, I feel what they are going through. חייך וכי נפשך אם אעשה את הדבר הזה. In your life, I will never do something like this.
הוא עלה בגדולתו על דוד.
It looks like he is the ultimate warrior. The ultimate warrior. In Tzal, they always teach the arachim, the values of Tzal, how an officer has to feel when everyone is fighting and he stayed behind. You cannot stay behind. On the contrary, it's always Tzal is known by Acharai, which is amazing. I'll give you one statistic. It's very, very interesting and very painful. In Gaza, there is a huge cemetery, army cemetery of the Australian, the British, who fought in the First World War. I think they have something around 12,000 soldiers buried in the cemetery in Gaza, which is still maintained by the Canadian, by the Commonwealth countries. How many officers there are out of 12,000 soldiers? What do you think?
One for every 30 men?
17 officers. All the rest, privates. Because the officer has to be behind to manage the war. You go to Kiryat Shaul, to the Beit Almin HaTzvai in Kiryat Shaul, half are officers, because it's Acharai. Some of them alufim, and you know in Tzal it's amazing. I unfortunately visited a few times the Beit Almin HaTzvai. You have aluf next to a private, next to a Rav Seren, like everyone is the same, is a soldier. So one is aluf, the other one is private, and they one next to the other one. And Uriah represent this value. People are fighting. How can I stay behind? And he says something vulgar in a way. What does he say? ואני אבוא אל ביתי לאכול ולשתות ולשכב את אשתי. To sleep with my wife. Why he say something so vulgar? Like, okay, everyone understand that if you go home, you are going to have relations with your wife. You don't speak about it. What does he mean?
I know what he knew.
It's an affront.
I am not going to sleep with my wife, but I know that someone else did.
He knew.
He wouldn't use this kind of language if he doesn't want to say, David, shame on you. Because I cannot go to my wife, to my house, but you did. And it all started because you don't feel what your soldiers are going through. You know, in the Parshat HaShavua we read that when Lavan talked to Yaakov, Yaakov came to him and said, what happened here? I married Rachel and you gave me Leah. So what Lavan said, לא היה second במקומנו לתת הבחירה, הצעירה לפני הבחירה. Do you see the irony that he uses? לא היה second במקומנו, in our place. We don't do things like this, that the young comes before the old. In your place they do it. Who did it? You, yourself. Because you took the Bechorah from Esav. So he comes to him and said, Bimkomenu, in our place, we don't do things like this. You do things like this. He turned the lack of morality towards him. And that's exactly the same thing that Uriah is doing. You want me to go to my wife? Maybe you do things like this. I'm not doing things like this when my soldiers are al pnei hasadeh. By the way, he dismissed the chief of staff, David HaMelech, immediately. Where he dismisses him? Who he considers his master? Ve'adoni Yoav. He said right after, maybe he understood what he did, Ve'avdei Adoni, talking about him, but who he mentions first as his master. My master is Yoav, not you. Which Chazal consider to be Mored B'Malchut. You don't talk to any king this way, that you say, my master, when you talk to your king. And Chazal say that from this moment on, Uriah was Chayav Mita. So this is one way to read it and to excuse David why he sent him to his death, because he spoke so harshly towards David. But we are regular people. When we read it, we feel the pain in the heart of Uriah. The pain.
But he's talking about Yoav and the army being out there. David is standing right in front of him. He's not out there, so it makes sense that he would put it that
So
way.
it's two issues. Actually, he give him like the bomb. He threw two bombs. Number one,
Why aren't you there?
you are here. My friends and myself are over there in the battlefield. Number two, you exploited the fact that we are there in order to sleep with my wife. ויאמר דוד אל אוריה, שב בזה גם היום, ומחר אשלחך. Maybe he thought that, we will come down, usually after we vent out, people are coming down, maybe he will change his mind. Maybe if Uriah would leave it the same day, this will increase the scandal, like, seriously. People apparently hear how Uriah is talking to David, so he asked him to stay one more day. וישב אוריה בירושלים ביום ההוא וממחרת. בירושלים, he's not going home. ויקרא לו דוד, ויאכל לפניו. David invites him. וישת וישקרהו. We make sure that he serve him with good wine and he become drunk. Why? Because when people drunk, they forget many, many things. People who are drunk tend to do other things, and he hoped that he will visit his wife. ויצא בערב לשכב במשכבו עם עבדי אדוניו ואל ביתו לא ירד. Yes, he's a shiker, he's drunk, but he's not going home. He was not as shiker as David hoped to. When we compare it, for example, to one of the great-grandfathers of David HaMelech himself. Who was it? Lot, the father of Ammon and Moab, Ruth Moaviah. David HaMelech come from Moab. He indeed did not control himself. And I think that there is some association with what happened with Lot in the Me'ara after he got drunk and had relation with his daughters. Uriah was much higher than that. Nothing helped. He knew exactly what David tried to do, and he doesn't budge. No. What else? What can he do now? Only one. Uriah does not help him to cover the scandal. ויהי בבוקר ויכתוב דוד ספר אל יואב, a letter to יואב, וישלח ביד אוריה. Do you get the picture here? The execution order is carried
By himself.
by the person himself. And you can learn something very important from it. How David trusted his generals. He knew that he's not going to open the letter. That's an amazing, amazing insight. David HaMelech gave it to Uriah. He knew that he will not open the letter, no matter what. And this is indeed mind-boggling when you think about at least have the decency to send it with someone else. This part, I can't explain. When I read this pasuk, my heart is broken. Honestly, okay, you can do many things, but it says in the parasha of Shiluach HaKen that when a person goes in the field and he finds a mother over the chicks, you have to send her away. You cannot take her. She doesn't want to leave her children, her chicks, but you are not allowed to take her and their children. So I think it's a parshan by the name Ibn Kaspi. He says something very, very profound. Hashem gives an enormous power to to every mom about her children. A love, unconditional love. She will do everything she can do to save their life. It's an amazing power that Hashem gave to every mother, even in the nature world. It is impossible that you will use this gift that God gave the mother against her. She tried to protect her children. This is an amazing gift that Hashem gave her, and you will use the fact that she doesn't want to leave her children to take her with the children. That's achzariyut. And here, that's what happened. Hashem gave Uriah such a gift of loyalty, and David used this loyalty to kill him. That's, to me, it's the worst part of the story. But we are going to learn this story for 2-3 weeks. We are going to get back to this story and to see it from a different angle too. So now we just read it together. ויהי בשמור יואב אל העיר, where is it? ויכתוב בספר לאמור, הבו את אוריה אל מול פני המלחמה החזקה, ושבתם מאחריו וניקה במת. So the plot is very, very simple. Send Uriah, he is a general, he is strong, send him alone, and he will be killed, and that's what I want. I want to get rid of him for some reason. We say he was mored b'malchut and all this. Yeah. So, ויהי בשמור יואב אל העיר, remember they are on Rabat Amon. Rabat Amon at the time was surrounded with the wall. ויתן את אוריה אל המקום אשר ידע כי אנשי חיל שם. You know, he's a general, he knows that at a certain place the soldiers are stronger than other places, and he sent Uriah over there. ויצאו אנשי העיר, וילחמו את יואב. ויפול מן העם מעבדי דוד, וימות גם אוריה החיתי. In a war, like a war, you cannot be always successful. And the people, the strong people from the city is going outside, they fight the Abadim of Yoav, Uriah included, they killed Uriah with some of the soldiers. This was not the plan. The plan was to kill only Uriah. But this was the naive thought of David, that you can get rid, like, to pinpoint, like Tzahal is doing today with the laser, just this building should be, not building, like this floor of the building has to be heat, and everyone else should continue to eat his dinner. Normally in a war, when the not Tzahal is conducting a war, you have a problem over there, you hit them and everyone around will be killed. What can you do? It's only Tzahal, the Tzava Lo Musari, as you all know, that will target this one in this room, and no one else should be hit around. And that's what David thought, that only Uriah will be killed. But Yoav knows the reality. In a war, you don't send one person. You send him with his soldiers. And you also, what happened with the bus, if Chas v'Shalom, there will be soldiers on the bus. It's not one soldier that is killed, everyone around is killed, yes.
Didn't David, in the letter, wasn't he writing that he should, with Uriah, he put Uriah, they should, go forward, and then everybody should retreat and leave him there alone? Isn't that what it was?
And you think that it works like this? Like all the soldiers see their officer, their high officer, is around, and they will go, goodbye, by the way, because you have told us to go away. That was the mistake of David, that things can be done this way, but in real life, it can't be done this way. If you have officer, he has soldiers. If he is going to be hit, they are going to be hit. So you see David, in order to cover what he did, he does not even think about the implication of what does it mean to kill Uriah. Uriah is not going to die alone, or at least you cannot guarantee it. In his thought, he can arrange it, but it never happened in reality.
Yeah, but how can you even expect him to think like that? He was a general. He was a leader. He knew how war was conducted. How could he even imagine that would happen?
Well, if he told the soldiers, this is what we're doing, when somebody would have said something to Uriah or something like that.
It's a good question. There is a very important Israeli writer, Beshem Moshe Shamir. He published a book, I think right after Yom Kippur, one of my favorite as a teenager. It's called Kibsat Arash, because the next parak is talking about the sheep of the poor person in the story of Natan when he rebukes. And he writes about the story of David and Bathsheba, which, as I said, it's an amazing, terrible story. And he suggests what you say, that actually Uriah knew that it's going to be a suicidal operation. He knew exactly that the king tried to get rid of him, and this was kind of protest against the king. You want me to be killed, I will be killed. But shame on you. Something around this. The whole book, Kibsat Arash, describing Uriah in this way, and he was a very profound writer. Very profound writer. It's interesting, he was from Shomer HaTzair, but very to the right, if it's possible, something like this. He grew at the Shomer HaTzair, but he became like Ish Eretz Yisrael Shlema. He passed away quite young. This story, he was, I think, Moshe Shamir, when he wrote it, was in his 40s, and before that he wrote like already, he was a member in the Haganah. He wrote already when he was 17 and 19, and profound historical stories, amazing stories. Much of my Jewish history knowledge came from his books, actually, because he writes so beautifully about it, and unfortunately it's not in English. Don't worry, today no one will read him in Israel too, but really like...
So maybe while David has an intent to have Uriah killed, he stages it in such a way as he doesn't die alone. He knows very well other soldiers are going to be killed.
I think that Rab Meidan suggests something around this line, that he knew very well that, but you know, once you go with your plan, yeah, which is a terrible thought too. It's a terrible thought. Yeah. This is going to be very hard to retract everything that we said about David, but we will do it. So, וישלח יואב ויגד לדוד את כל דברי המלחמה. Yoav understood right away what he wants, right? He understand what happened. Yoav was not in Yerushalayim, but apparently Yoav also enjoyed the admiration of many of the soldiers, and he heard, and who knows, maybe he heard even from Uriah what happened. Anyway, ויצב את המלאך, so he sent back a malach, a messenger to David, to Yerushalayim, לאמור. ככלותך את כל דברי המלחמה לדבר אל המלך. You are going to tell him the whole story about the war. I'm telling you, David is going to be very upset. Why? והיה, אם תעלה חמת המלך, the king is going to be angry. ואמר לך, מדוע ניגשתם אל העיר להילחם? What kind of strategy is this one? You come close to the walls of the city, and then you are like, wonder why they killed you? הלא ידעתם את אשר יורו מעל החומה. The חומה is the worst place to come around, because people are at the top of the wall, they throw all kinds of things, they can shoot their arrow, so for sure you are going to be killed. So David is going to be very, very upset, I'm telling you that. מי היכה את אבימלך בן ירובשת? If you read ספר שופטים, there was a judge that was killed this way. A woman, she was on the wall, she threw a stone on his head, his skull, was broken, and he was killed. So you know already how dangerous it is to come close to the wall. Why did you do that? למה ניגשתם אל החומה? ואמרת, so answer him, גם עבדך אוריה החיתי מת. Well, what does that mean? He's going to ask you how you make such a terrible mistake, and you will answer, it's okay, Uriah died.
So the mission is fulfilled.
Mission fulfilled. Trust me, David is not going to be upset anymore. That's what he said to him. He's going to be so pleased with the news that he will forget about all the strategic mistakes that I did or the soldiers did. Now, you understand that you have tried somehow to protect David, because he's preparing the messenger that David is going to ask questions, he tells him what to answer. But the messenger was not that stupid. He understood very well what's going on. Because you see that when he talks to David, he goes to the point. וילך המלאך, the messenger, ויבוא ויגד לדוד את כל אשר שלחו יואב. He tell him the entire story of יואב. ויאמר המלאך אל דוד, כי גברו עלינו האנשים. The people, the enemy, were stronger than us. They came to the field. ונהיה עליהם עד פתח השער, and we tried to fight them up to the gate of the gate, the entrance of the gate. ויורו המורים, this artillery, or infantry, they shot us with the arrows מעל החומה, וימותו מעבדי המלך וגם עבדך אוריה החיתי מת. He does not wait that David המלך, why did you come close to the חומה? He tells him right away, my king, אוריה died. ויאמר דוד אל המלאך, כה תאמר אל יואב, אל ירא בעיניך את הדבר הזה. Don't worry about it. I know that you feel bad that some soldiers were killed. כי חזה בחזה תאכל החרב. That's a way of war, you win some, you lose some. החזק מלחמתך אל העיר והורסה וחזקהו. Okay, that's the story up to here. And here come the next stage. ותשמע אשת אוריה, כי מת אוריה אישה, ותספוד על בעלה. There is a word missing here. She eulogized her husband. But you remember the first time in the Torah that someone eulogized someone else?
I cried.
נכון מאוד. ויבוא אברהם לספוד לשרה ולבכותה. There is no crying here. Obviously she was his wife. She said a few nice things about him. No crying. ויעבור האבל. The days of the mourning passed. Months, 2, 3. וישלח דוד ויאספה אל ביתו. ותהי לו לאישה. וירא הדבר אשר עשה דוד בעיני השם. I would say Hashem hated it. But we have to remember what happened here. He sent a person to his death. רציחה. There was גילוי עריות, she was אשת איש. And Hashem did not like it so much. וירא הדבר בעיני השם. It should say that Geval, this is like Sodom ועמורה, honestly, like that's the worst of any morality, any leader.
Yeah,
you
but
cannot
looking after
go.
an almana.
I'm sorry?
You looked out for an almana. She's a widow, you have to carry your dog almana,
Aha.
That's
But she wasn't when they.
מצווה לחזק אלמנות. Okay. Yeah. That's an interesting, I did not think about it this way. It's like the person who go to the judge at the court, right, and say that he's an orphan, he killed his father. So it's, yeah. So the end of the perek also suggests that there was something very bad here, but we don't hear that there was a gilui arayot here, although she seems to be eshet ish, or there was retzicha here. So as I say, Chazal came with some creative ideas about mored b'malchut. About eshet ish, I would say just that. If you like it, good. If not, there are many who will join you. Chazal say that there was a minhag that, by the way, until this very day, in some units in Tzahal, they are doing it until this very day, believe it or not. Chazal say that every soldier who went to a war in Cheilot Beit David, before he went to the war, divorced his wife. If he came alive,
It's like it.
he remarried her.
It's like it.
Well, we will discuss this in the next year, but the simple pshat is, they just gave them a get. Remember, this was days where some people not only did not come home in a coffin, they did not come at all. You didn't know what happened to them. Like they were not even buried, they disappeared. The wife stay aguna, she cannot remarry. Many of them were very, very young, because remember that this time people went to the army like 17 and 18, and they had very young wives at home. And it was this day, it was a minhag to give them get, so she was not Eshet Ish. You have to understand what Chazal tried to tell us here, that she was not Eshet Ish at this point. What about the morality? Yeah, that's why Hashem was so upset. Yes?
I don't like that, because Pasuk Gimel it says, Batsheva Eshet Uriah Hittite. She wasn't.
נכון.
For ways how to get out.
The one who was Eshet Uriah, and if he would come alive back home, she would marry him again. So, yes, there was a lack of morality, but if you are concerned about the Eshet Ish that we don't find here, and we know that all Sefer Vayikra, Eshet Ish, it's the worst thing, right? He doesn't mention. And he continued to live with her. Remember that according to the Jewish law, he could not live with her if she was indeed Eshet Ish. And even Natan in the next parak is not discussing this issue. So there was something. What is this something? One idea is that she was not actually Mekudeshet to him at this point. And as I said, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that really in certain units where people sometimes has to go to beyond the enemy lines and they are not sure that they will come back, they do get al tnai. This is where they do get al tnai, that if you don't hear about them for 2 years, then most likely they are not, and the get is going to be effective right away. I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe, who knows. Next time we are going to see the approach of the Rambam, who was extremely troubled with this story. And he comes to something that someone here mentioned before. Mate Uriah Chiti. What is Chiti? Chiti, we know it from the story of Abraham and Ephron, and Shei Bnei Chet. And the Rambam adopted a minority in Chazal that Uriah was not a Jewish guy. And we know already that David cooperated with many nations around and hired some of the Giborim in other nations to his army. The army of David was not based 100% only on Jews, but there were the Druze and the Cherkessis and the Bedouin of this time that joined the people of David. And Uriah Hitti was never Jewish, which means that she was never married to him. And the Rambam himself said, it's a little bit shvach, but he said there is no other option to explain this story. So that's for next week, B'ezrat Hashem. Erev Tov.